Great, thank you, Avery. I'm Steve Holofield. I am Mayor Pro Tem. Butch Berry, the mayor, is not going to be here today. He had a prior commitment in Little Rock with Municipal League. So I'm going to be overseeing the workshop between the City Council and the Eureka Springs Hospital Commission. Today is August 21st, 2025. We're going to go around and introduce ourselves. And the Hospital Commission, do a little bit extra and tell us what your background is, because a lot of people in the community have asked me whose qualifications are what on the Hospital Commission. So I think it's always good to reinforce that and hear it again. So we'll start down here, the gentleman.
Brian Byler, Vice Chair. Been in Eureka Springs since 1983. Have a background in insurance and some contracting work.
Yeah.
Sharon Doremus, Hospital Commissioner. Been here for 22 years. Office nurse as an LPN, gastroenterology, endoscopy. Worked for the health department as a cancer registrar.
Okay, thank you.
David Carlisle, Commissioner. I have experience as an anesthesiologist and pain management physician. Have served on various hospital boards over the years, and volunteer commitments in Eureka.
Thank you, sir.
Harry Meyer, general troublemaker and member of the City Council.
Terry McClung, City Council.
Rochelle Moyer, Council Member, Ward 1, Position 1.
Heather Owens with Harrington Miller Law Firm. We are your city attorneys.
I'm Steve Holofield, City Council, Mayor Pro Tem. And next.
Michael Akins, I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Eureka Springs.
Willie Daniels, Hospital Commission, and I have experience as a substance abuse counselor, and I'm currently an EMT with Eureka Springs Fire Department, and I've been in Eureka Springs since 2016.
David Avanzino, City Council member.
Sandy Martin, Chair of the Eureka Springs Hospital Commission, been in Eureka Springs since 2007. Background is business development, marketing, communications, community work, nonprofit work, and I've served on several boards and commissions, including Mercy Hospital, Berryville Board, and Mercy Foundation.
Cynthia Asbury, CFO.
Tiffany Means, new CEO.
Right.
Steve, can I interject? Susan says she can't hear anything on Zoom.
Susan,
No,
can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good?
Tuning City Council.
Okay. Susan, you want to introduce yourself?
Susan Gruning, City Council.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. So Susan's on via Zoom. I want to remind folks this is a workshop. This is not a meeting. We do not take motions. We do not make decisions. This is here just to work out on specifically some questions about the hospital budget that some of the City Council members have, and we're just here to kind of clarify that and hopefully move on. So, and we don't have an agenda. Again, this is a workshop, not a meeting. So anybody want to start off with this workshop? Michelle?
I'm happy to start. Sure. First of all, I just wanted to start by saying how much I appreciate everybody being at the table today. I love the spirit in here. We're all sitting in different places, and I think that's what we're all looking for, is to work together. We are here in good faith. Certainly I'm here in good faith, and the questions that I'm bringing, for myself at least, is just to get reassurance that the hospital is going to be okay, right? When I first got to City Council, I knew a little bit about what was going on with the hospital just because of what the papers were covering, but I didn't know a lot. And in fact, I think the only reason that I'm really still sore in this and asking questions is because I have individuals from the community coming to me asking me questions, right? So we're here in good faith. I'm representing the folks that come to me, my constituents, and this is the process. So it's not fun and it's not always easy, but that's why I appreciate you all being here and participating, because this is how it works, right? Again, I think to kind of summarize what the concerns are, I think just since the beginning and looking forward to where we are now, the main concern that I have has been pretty much three things. One would be there's an extreme loss of confidence in the hospital. Both individuals in our community who would visit the hospital and also physicians that would be referring people to the hospital. Not saying that they don't refer, because I realize that they do. I talk with them, but they do have some concerns. And that has impacted, I think, the revenue. The second concern is just generalized revenue dropping. When you look at a historic perspective over the last 3 years, and I understand that we've had a transition in the status of the hospital, but even with that in an account, looking at sort of the history that's available to us financially, we can see that there's been a drastic change. And then that coupled with more spending. So you have decreased revenue, increased spending, that looks like trouble to me. So just asking some questions like, how's the money being spent? Where are we going to be? What are the projections moving forward? Mainly because we want to we want reassurance that the hospital is going to be here. So in that spirit, that's sort of the summary of how we got here. At this point, I'm really grateful to Michael for kind of, again, this is not my wheelhouse. I know enough to ask questions. And I appreciate Michael for kind of stepping in and trying to help me understand and kind of be a voice between us. So I had submitted my questions, which he shared with you, and I appreciate you all coming back to me or coming back to us with some answers. And I think today we could just be really expeditious and just kind of go from there, right? So if it's okay with you, I can just start from the top unless I don't want to control the mic. So if anyone wants to interject or has anything to say before we kind of start through the list of questions, then I'll be quiet.
Okay.
No? Okay. Okay. So in the first sort of concern that I had submitted was the movement of the $1.3 million from cash to accounts receivable. And I appreciate the response. It seems like perhaps it was a coding error and that money was just moved. And so my question now would be, is it Cerner that does the billing for accounts receivable? Is that?
Cerner's our EHR system that does generate the claims that goes to a clearinghouse, but then sends the claims out to the insurance payers.
Okay, so the reason that I think looking at accounts receivable is important is because I'm not accusing anyone, I'm just saying if you were going to remove money from an account, you could easily just on the books move money from one line to the next, right? So what we're asking for is just a validation that the accounts receivable is actually what it's being reported as. This is just a protection for you, honestly, because then if someone comes to me and says, well, do you think they're embezzling money? We can say, oh my gosh, the accounts receivable actually matches up with what they're reporting as accounts receivable. They didn't just move it from one line to the next. So that's the purpose for asking for that. And my question for you is, if Cerner does that reporting, can you then ask for a report that shows an aging accounts receivable? Because the other thing that's really kind of strange is that if you look at the history of accounts receivable over time, accounts receivable right now is very high. In fact, it's the highest it ever has been listed in the history that we have for accounts receivable.
I mean, part of what I answered on there was, excuse me, the accounts receivable, and that the amount does, I mean, there's daily file transfers. It goes from Cerner, Oracle, our EHR system, into Multiview, which is our financial platform. There's daily files that communicate between the two. They show any payments that are moving, that are received into Oracle, transfer over into Multiview, our financial system. So the accounts receivable is balanced daily between the two systems. And that is something that Forvis does look at when they run our, do our annual audits and everything. They look at the AR detail, they pull payments, they ensure that the files match up, they one to one, they look at various payments we received and ensure that, yes, this payment was posted correctly, went, all the steps through that to validate. Our accounts receivable, there's the timing variables, the influx of charges. We've billed out professional fees in 2025. So that did increase. So that's something we hadn't been billing out for several years. So, that's additional charges we take on every month. So, there's timing variances of the charges hitting an insurance payer's payments that would create an influx of aging. The accounts are being worked. They're actively being moved through the system. So, there's just different timing things to say that would be an increase in the AR.
But you should be able to, could you not pull a report that shows an aging AR schedule, like 30, 60, 90?
Yes, there is an aging.
So you could pull a report to validate that the amount that you have sitting in AR is in fact tied to an account?
Yes.
Would it be possible to get a report like that so that we could see, because that report would then match up with what they're reporting as accounts receivable, correct?
Yes, it would.
Yes.
Yeah, it would. And it would show the difference of because when I gave you the sheet last time, when we looked at accounts receivable and we saw accounts receivable were going down because nothing was being replaced in there because it was being recorded in the other account. So you should be able to take those figures and match them up and be able to show that the accounts receivable plus what was in there is what's in accounts receivable. So yeah. I don't know what kind of report you could give us because I know there's a lot of HIPAA violation stuff there because we run into that at the city with the ambulance. Might be able to give you totals. Instead of you get the whole report, you'd have to basically redact almost the whole report except for the numbers, but it could have
Wouldn't need
totals.
to know the names,
Yeah,
right?
it
We're
could
not
have the
interested in
totals on it.
tying it to individuals. I do research at the university and we have to do that kind of thing all the time to protect individual information. What we're looking at as overall collective information and that number matches up. And I think that's a verification, a validation for you and the work that you're doing. It's a protection actually for you to present that because then we can shed light on that, share that with the community, then the community doesn't worry and these crazy rumors don't go flying around, right? So I think it's only an advantage for you to provide that kind of verification for an accounts receivable.
We have no problem with that.
Great.
It's, this is part of the confidence that you have in us, but we run that all the time.
And the other thing is the audit from Forvis. They're going to have a finding from Forvis, I would assume, because I haven't seen the report, but they're going to have a finding from Forvis that this was being directed into the wrong account, and that they're going to have suggested a journal entry of how they fixed it, which is what Cynthia did. So they're going to have that also. So that you can look at the accounts receivable reports, but you'll also be able to see through the Forvis the adjusting entry from Forvis, and we could probably get something from them stating that they recommended to make this adjusting entry, that this isn't just something that she saw and took care of, but that Forvis actually saw and told her to direct it.
And Forvis can cover that in the presentation that we have set up for the.
I appreciate that, and I think that that's great, and that will be really important. The reason that I'm sort of pushing for this right now is because, later on, here in just a few days, we're going to be hearing about an audit for 2024. Where are we in the year, right? So if we wait for an audit, we're going to be way down the road, and this is the issue now. So if we just do this, I think we can take care of that issue now.
And not to interrupt, but the Forvis, even though it's the audit for 2024, this started happening in 24, so they catch it, and so now she's correcting it now versus off of what they're telling her. So going forward, so when you get to the 25 audit, it will be corrected. So she should have something official from Forvis saying that this was a problem and it needed to be fixed. So that they do that to us too. If they see that we're headed down the wrong road on something, then they let us know, you're putting it in the wrong place, you need to move it over here, and that way you're not waiting until your 25 audit to find this out. So this should be probably indicated in your 24 audit, I would assume. So.
Yeah. And I'm going to say that even though we are wrapping up and we just kind of got our drafts on our 24 audit, even though that is the 24 audit, Forvis continuously looks through every month's financials, every month's bank account transactions and everything through current date until they literally issue the final audit. I mean, I just sent them all of July's financials, all of July's bank statement information, everything. So yes, the audit is for 24, but they continuously monitor every transaction and every detail within the financial world of the hospital through current date of issuing the previous year's final audit. So I mean, it's
So through July, even.
correct.
Yeah,
I mean, I just
they've already got
submitted
all that.
correct.
And do it.
Look through it,
They
yes.
look
They
through
have
it.
the
Yes.
information, but it's not audited.
I mean,
Good to know. We didn't know
Now,
that.
that being said, they're not giving her a
Report on it,
through
but they-
July.
No,
They're
They
just
are
looking.
indicating any issues that they find.
Yeah, if there's a problem, they're going to red flag it and let you know.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Immediately.
Good to know.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a great segue. And I look forward to the Forvis report, hearing and learning more about that. That's a great segue because the next question I had was about the bad debt and no posting of bad debt. Would they be looking at that? Would that be a red flag for them? If you look at the history, there's monthly postings of bad debt. Obviously, that's reoccurring just as AR is reoccurring. So I'm curious as to why there's been nothing posted for 2025.
Do you want to read the response, or do you want me to read the response of what I put in there? I mean, we gave a pretty thorough response as to why.
So I guess my question would be, what is the policy, what is the hospital's policy for collection? When do you consider it bad debt where it would move from AR to
No
bad
matter
debt?
of what we consider as bad debt is what the CMS dictate as bad debt, because that field is something we file on our Medicare and our Medicaid cost reports. So a hospital cannot classify a debt as bad debt until we have exhausted all collection efforts and attempts.
And how long does that take? Because I think Medicare and Medicaid actually post that information. So what does the hospital see it?
So we diligently work our accounts, and then once we say we've exhausted all efforts internally, accounts are turned over to our collection agency. If the collection agency returns an account to us and saying they have exhausted all efforts, they're not able to, identify this person, put a lien, whatever their collection efforts are, if they say this is uncollectible from the collection agency, they return that account to us and say we've deemed this as uncollectible. Then and only then can we record that account as bad debt, and that is per CMS guidelines of what is dictated as bad debt.
So I'm just trying to...
That's kind of why in my response there, I did say that, because we are in Cerner, about 15 months worth of aging and stuff. So the diligently working, accounts are typically worked, pretty rapidly. With our new EHR system, we have a lot of automated system ops jobs that send accounts every Sunday over to the collection agency automatically to kind of helps keep accounts moving in that manner to ensure we get them to the collection agency in a timely manner so they have time to work them before we get outside the ability and the time frame for them to even say, it's past, there's nothing for them to work or collect on. So
what would be an explanation for why there's nothing recorded since 2025?
We have not had any accounts returned to us from the collection.
So everyone's paying.
If they're either
everything's up to date.
They are either paying us internally or they are in the hands of the collection agency. The accounts are sent to the collection agency, and therefore they are.
It's timing, Rochelle.
I understand that there's a timing factor. It doesn't make sense to me that there's 3 months out of 5 years of data that there's no bad debt.
The difference of
5 months without data.
With changing an EHR system and getting to a more sophisticated one, we have a newer collection agency that we did change to as well. So, it is the due diligence and the timely and the effectiveness of working these accounts and ensuring that we say and identify within 90, 120 days that we've exhausted our efforts internally and we get this in a timely manner to the collection agency. Previous Steve and me, I'll tell you, there was years that accounts were not worked at the hospital, and that is why you do see historically a lot of bad debt write-off.
2024 was one of those years.
And that's where we had to do aging cleanup of the historical because we couldn't bring it on the books to our new EHR system. And the accounts were over a year or 2 or 3 years old. When I came on at the end of 23, accounts weren't being worked. We had accounts that were 3 years old and hadn't even billed to insurance. So there was a lot of those variables that had to be cleaned up, processes put in place, and followed to a T to ensure that we are diligently working and collecting every penny we can, whether it be from insurance, from the collection agency, from the patient. So, there's just a lot of that historical stuff that doesn't set the guidelines of what unfortunately, that should never have been. If the accounts were being worked effectively, we would never have had that much amount of money written off as bad debt.
So I have a question for you, because I don't know how your collection agency handles it. Ours sends us periodic reports saying you've got this much that's been turned over to us, and this much is at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, over 180. Does your collection agency provide you with that kind of reporting?
We don't get a monthly report.
I think we get ours quarterly.
Because we don't. The report's the only thing they send us is if they collect on our accounts every month. Any accounts they've collected on, that way they send us the remit the payment, and then those accounts within that aspect. And then other than that, I mean, it's just like I said, the files are there, and they validate that. I mean, the number matches with what we sent over and stuff. So, but yeah,
we should be able to get a report from them. I mean, we just might have to ask for it. But our collection agency that collects our ambulance payments, they send a report in quarterly. I think it's quarterly that shows us exactly how much we have out there. That's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days. What's ready to be charged off, that kind of stuff. So they should be able to provide a collection report showing the status of how many accounts there actually are in collections and the status of where those are at in the collection process. So to verify if there's anything that needs to be charged off.
I think that's super helpful, and I want to say I appreciate how hard you're working the accounts. I think that that's wonderful. I'm sad to hear that maybe that wasn't done in the past, but I'm glad that we're paying attention to that. And I think that that kind of a report would be a wonderful verification, because the reason that I'm asking this is because obviously, right, if you have this amount sitting in AR, you're expecting that you're expecting that revenue to come through. That's following down to, your projected revenue for that time period. But in fact, I mean, you wouldn't be the first hospital to have bad debt, right? I'm sure there's bad debt. But just knowing what that is so that you can project that forward is really important, and that's really the concern here.
Not a problem.
So a report like that would be great verification. Thank you. I think as far as account balances, $3.2 million liability, we'll see where that goes. So I don't want to take up our time today on that, but I did want to talk a little bit about the mid-year review and budget revision. I had asked what the status of that was. Obviously, the city has just done that. Municipalities are required by law to do that. There's a reason for that. It was reported by the chair that the mid-year review was done in a public workshop. I went back to the transcript of that meeting, and what was said in quotes is, what I'm going to do is plug in and I'm going to plug in make-believe numbers and see where we fall. And then you asked for, the chair, to the bottom line end revenue at the end of the year. At the July meeting, we will continue and just kind of keep adjusting it. So evidence suggests that it was not actually done, or maybe that it is in progress, and I'm just asking to see what that looks like now. Because I'm trying to get a sense of what we're going to be looking like at the end of 2025, right? At the end of the day, our concerns, my concerns in particular, are really about visitation revenue significantly decreasing and spending increasing. And I think we just want reassurance that there's a plan to keep this hospital in operation for our community.
What we decided, let me answer some of your questions, Rochelle, and then I think that is in the response. And I've got, if anybody doesn't have this on council, I've got response with backup to the questions that Rochelle initially, so we can pass those around as well as the budget information. We determined that it was kind of futile to plug numbers in. We wanted to track actuals. Last year, we did the budget in August. That was before a lot of things happened in August, and we had only had 4 months worth of REH baseline, and we based that off of that. We knew right off the bat in January or February, thank you, that that budget was wrong, and we started tracking actuals to see when we could get a baseline. Our goal was to stabilize the hospital and start getting some positive traction with the hospital, which started happening in early 2025. So when we did our budget, our mid-year budget workshop revision, which we always planned, and I will also add here that this is the first budget the hospital's ever had. So it was new to this then administration, but we did do it. We decided that we didn't have enough of a baseline that was solid off the REH model to basically, do any projection. We also know that we have a lot of unknowns, as you are all aware, with CMS and everything else that's going on, that, we don't know what's going to happen in 2026. We also had our new CEO hired, thankfully, and we decided it would be best till she came in and we had a chance to have Tiffany put her fingerprints on it and put her input on it. She's obviously only been there, she's hit it running, but she's only been there not even a month yet, still assessing. So we wanted her input with it. What we are doing is we're tracking actuals. And as you can see, we've had 3 in the black months. May and June were to the tune of 200,000 over, and July was just 80,000 over. So the expenses that we have incurred this year, we anticipated. Those included some investments, as you know, in Pinnacle and IT that was necessary. And the other was the Cerner backup payment that we wrote a check for $560,000 for. The Cerner was anticipated. The Pinnacle was partially anticipated. We knew we had to spend money in IT. We didn't expect quite that much, but we didn't realize how broken our system was. So we are tracking the actuals, and we are not going to try to project a number. We are looking for a baseline. I think I said at that workshop that we might break even and we might be a little, in the negative, but we just have to see, and we have to get a solid baseline under the REH without problems that we had to address. Tiffany needs time to come in. The staff and Tiffany are focused on cost-saving measures, which they've done several. We're continuing to do that. And to get to the point where we can start looking at revenue generation building opportunities, which Tiffany and the staff are already on. We track everything. We look at the revenue by cost center, which is also attached to that. I'll take exception to the losses in the revenue. There are 2 graphs in there that show that we actually, between 24 and 25, have improved the revenue generation over 24 and reduced the expenses. So our profit margin, operating margin is up. You'll see a spike in 2024, and that is due to the infusion of the initial REH money. So that's not a true
Baseline.
Right. So we do have the financials for this, and I did do a revised rolling 12, which does take that out of there.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
The financials for July were shared with us last night.
Yes.
Yes. And I used that to update a rolling 12, which now removes that infusion of cash. So you're really looking at finances over the last 12 months. And what I would say is you don't have any bad debt, you don't have any charity care. There's another thing in there. You're not recording anything. Basically everything that you're billing for, you're expecting to receive. And what I would say is last year, I think you had like $1.7 million in bad debt and charity care combined. $1.7 million, and previous to that, you had like 2.2 million last year in bad debt and charity care, subtracted from your revenue line, which you have none right now. The year before that, you had $1.7 million in charity care and bad debt subtracted from the revenue line. You don't have any of that right now. So what it looks like is possibly, and that's why I feel like it's important that we're all here today, if you expect to receive 100% of that money that's in AR, you're going to be at a loss for a little bit. But if you have bad debt like you've had the last 2 years, you're going to be $2 million plus under for 2025. So here's, can I finish? Can I finish? You said a couple of things that really concern me. One is the hospital never had a budget. Honestly, I don't really care about that.
We do.
It's past. There's nothing that you can do about the past. You are here in your position right now, and your responsibility is to guide the hospital's finances. And I don't know how you do that without a budget. I don't know how you do that without doing projections into the future, because you have to know what's coming. I don't run a business without a budget, and I don't know any business person that runs a business without a budget. So I just want to lay that there. Secondly, you said that there's a lot of unknowns. The city, there's a ton of unknowns for the city, and the city can do a budget and does a budget and operates by that budget. And they're required to do that by law because it's not their money. It's the people's money. And we are stewards of that money, and we're responsible for doing the right thing, and we're responsible for taking care of something that doesn't belong to us, it belongs to the community. It's not any one person, it's all of us. So the fact that there is not a revised budget is very, very concerning to me, because I don't see big expense items posted that have always appeared in the history of the hospital and also appear in other hospitals. I would be curious to know if there's a rural hospital out there that has zero bad debt. And if that's not the case, then that is going to eventually come into that line, which is going to be subtracted from the revenue and will ultimately impact operations.
As you mentioned, Rochelle, with the budget, it doesn't really do any good to go in the past, and that's what you're doing. We are in the current, and we are very, very aware of the financial situation that we have. The fact that we haven't formalized a budget does not mean that we're not operating on a budgetary process within the hospital. They look at that daily, they look at that monthly, they have department head meetings. They are in the midst of doing, cost savings first, then revenue generation list. Doesn't bother me at all that we don't have a budget to go from. It is more important to me that we are accurately recording everything, we are actively doing cost-saving measures, and we're actively looking at revenue generation. What's going to matter is 2026, because we're a different hospital, we have new, strong leadership involved. We have, cleaned up a lot of messes. We have made a tremendous amount of investments in the infrastructure and the facility itself, from equipment to staff to everything else. Those expenses we are proud of. We'll defend them like crazy. If that puts us in a little bit of a deficit, so be it, because it's the right thing to do for the hospital and the community. And that's what we're doing. So I would like to see us move forward with how we're going to work together and what other questions you have. We've provided you with that information. You have the July financials. If anybody wants some more backup, I've got the mysterious commission checking account. I've got the checkbook if you want to look at it. That's, to me, a moot issue. The 1.3, there's backup on that. The 3.6, that is attached to the COVID money. In the response, and I just want to go on the record on that, that will be adjusted.
Should be part of our 2025 audit and being suggested to remove it from the liability line because we've hit the time frame.
There were two conditions of it. One, if you take taxpayer dollars for operation of the hospital does not have taxpayer dollars, so we are not comparable to municipal. We don't take city, state, federal tax dollars. We are self-operational, self-funding. Second one was a time frame. They could come back and do the clawback within 4 years. We hit that 4-year mark in April. So it obviously cannot be adjusted in 2024. The commission approved and Cynthia approved that it was the prudent thing to do to carry that on a liability, and we'll carry it on a liability until Forvis takes it off next year.
I have a question. One thing I would like to interject here when we're talking about bad debt expense. In January, you had a pretty substantial adjustment to bad debt expense, correct? From what you had written off in 2024, you had written off too much.
It was a rolling balance forward of cleaning up again the MedHost system, our legacy EHR system. We sunset all of the aging out in January of 25 because we had worked it and there was nothing further, and that was an adjustment of that. We do record monthly an adjustment journal entry for allowance of contractuals and bad debts. We do record a liability for that, and there is a rolling balance on our detailed trial balance. It is a liability line that is always out there with an estimated contractual, with a worksheet that formulates in what our total aging, what all of our different payer buckets are they at 30, 60, 90, 120, all the different various things. It looks at payer types, the bad debts, everything. And we do record a monthly adjustment journal entry to capture a true good faith estimated bad debt that looks at our past 12 months of payer payments and kind of how that aging looks, move forward into the current system. I mean, it looks at all of that. And we do record an adjustment. We record that journal entry monthly for an allowance of bad debt, the contractual adjustment. So we never assume we're going to be paid at 100% from any.
And where is that?
Where
is that? Where would we see that?
That is monthly. It is recorded monthly, and that is there's a liability line of that on our detailed trial balance that's on there for liability of the payer type contractuals and bad debt.
My question
there's an allowance for that every month.
I appreciate that. Where would we see that posted?
That would, the detail, it rolls into the balance sheet and stuff, but it is on the detailed trial balance, has different GL lines. That's an allowance for those contractual bad debts, contractual obligations, because we never expect to receive any payment at 100%.
What line would we look at to see that?
Balance sheet.
It rolls into the balance sheet.
So you can see it on
Some rolls into that GL. The balance sheet is a sum total of all the various GLs hitting buckets. The balance sheet is a summary of that. So we can pull off just those accounts that is the contractual allowance off of our detailed trial balance. But yes, there's always a liability booked for the estimated contractuals that we anticipate.
And that's currently at 0. Yeah.
Okay. Terry, you have some?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I think what Sandy's saying as far as 2026 for everyone in here and as well in TV land is that 2026, it depends on what the government programs are going to do for us, whether they help us stay afloat or put us under.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're referring to, and so just to make that clear to everyone.
That's part of it, and also, we've got issues and unknowns with CMS and what they're going to do as far as billing and stuff, and Cynthia went to a conference, a couple of months ago on their changing of the codes and their payment system and everything. There's that side of it that could hit our reimbursement end of it. On the revenue side of it, there's the portion that I think it's called the Rural Health Improvement Program, is the $50 billion over 10 years. Half of that is going to be given, we're not sure when that's going to be triggered. We don't know if that'll happen in 26 or 27 or whatever, but half of that, $25 billion over 5 years, is going to go to the state level. So each state will have an equal amount. So we'll need to lobby our state to see how they're going to distribute that money and disperse the money. The second half of it that'll come after that will have criteria. It won't be a grant per se, but you will have to apply for it on certain things. The rough stuff that I've seen so far, and we don't have any detail, we don't have any facts on exactly how it's going to happen or when, but what we've seen that has been mentioned within the committee and within the bill, we're already kind of trying to do. Telehealth, community access with mobile, easier access, quicker transportation, those kinds of things, preventative health that we're building into, Tiffany's building into the community education program. So we don't know those variables. So there's a negative on the reimbursement potential, and there's a positive on funding, but we have no idea how that's going to happen. So
Right.
we are kind of projecting, and this is going to fall, after this meeting, this is going to fall to Tiffany because it's hers to do the budget with Cynthia. But what we're going to do up until through this year is try to narrow in our cost. We're replacing travelers with permanent employees. Start looking at revenue generation building programs that we'll most likely have to invest in. So we might not be able to trigger any or all of those this year. We might need to trigger them starting in 2026. Again, that's all up to the new leadership and the staff to come up with that plan. And from what we've heard so far, initially, it's going to be a good 2026 because we're preparing ourselves for the worst case, not the windfall of money, because it isn't a windfall of money.
Okay.
Sue had her, well, she had her hand up.
She stepped away. I was just ready to call her and she walked off. So I'll ask her when she comes back.
I have a quick question. The information that you just passed out under patient revenue, why is there such a significant increase between April and May and then carried over to June and July?
You're talking about because
The
our
billable
profit-
patient revenue, you're looking at top line, patient revenue.
I am, correct.
Okay, so I was trying to make sure I was looking at that. I mean, that is again where our visits, picked up. We've seen an increase in patient volume. Our, the patient census, we had, with the visits and stuff. So, that's kind of where we can look and track with our census and the patient visits that we picked up. Our census increased, and we kind of anticipate, the wintertime is our slower months, but we come with everything else. But that is,
Cynthia, one thing that I think would help is, could you explain like those first, like maybe 10 lines of that, of your revenue? Because I don't think, at the city, we look at, we have our revenue coming in, then we have our expenses coming out, and we have a number. Yours is a little bit different in that you have your revenue of what you're billing and stuff, and then you automatically take some things out, and then you get to what you're expecting, correct?
Correct.
Could you kind of explain that just like real briefly, just an overhead, so that the council, because I think that would be very beneficial for them to understand how you're getting to that revenue number.
Yeah. So, the outpatient revenue, so the patient revenue line you're looking at there would be any of our outpatient revenue we bill out. That's from our ER to any of our, any other outpatient services we have, radiology lab, anything like that. So that's kind of our gross that we're going to bill out and claim total for charges captured in a month. So from that, then we would deduct any of our outpatient contractuals, any contractual obligations, because every payer pays at a different reimbursement rate. We have some insurances, Blue Cross, United Healthcare, I say they're our friends, they pay really well, and then we have our government programs and managed care programs, and they will reimburse, pennies on the dollar. So, that is all various, contractuals that, again, based off of payer type that we record within that,
So in other words, what you're saying is, say I come in and I have a bill and it's $100. And you have your revenue of $100, but if I have Blue Cross or Blue Shield, you're going to deduct that down to maybe $90. And these are just random. But maybe not have $90 because I've got Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They pay well. But no, say I have, just my own private insurance that's not as good or whatever. So you may deduct $50 off of that and get the actual bill down to $50. So just so council kind of understands and the public how that works, I think it's important to understand that.
correct, yes.
Okay.
So, every insurance has different contractual, obligations within that, so.
Okay, keep going.
And Susan stepped away again.
Oh,
There she is, catch her, she's back.
Susan? Did you have a question?
Yeah, this was a while back. We kind of have moved on, but I just wanted to mention that while,
Susan, I think your microphone is muted.
We can't hear.
Can barely hear you.
It's not muted.
It's on.
Can you hear?
Just barely.
Say something again?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Better.
It's
Better?
faint, but we can hear you.
Okay, or I can type it in or text it, whatever. I only had a comment about the budget, and I know a budget isn't part of the accounting principles per se, but then when I hear how I would rather have a little bit of a deficit and knowing expenses, but that's what helps you to not have a little bit of a deficit is because you do have a budget. You know, it's a forward-looking projection of how we're going to allocate resources. So while some may portray it, and this goes back to perception, right? Can't control always perception, but if you hear that our hospital doesn't have a working budget, then I think that leads to a confidence issue as well. So that was my comment. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Now repeat what I mentioned, that we are working a budget internally. It's not a formal budget.
And another thing to consider it when you're looking at a budget too is think of your household budget. You have X amount of dollars coming in and you have X amount of dollars going out. So then your refrigerator goes out. So you don't necessarily pay for that refrigerator out of that monthly income or that expense. You pay it out of a savings that you have, but it still comes as an expense. So some of the things that throws their revenue and expenses off is that they are having expenses that they are paying for out of revenues that they already have. So some of those items that you buy, and as we show it at the city, as a capital infusion, because you can't double revenue it. She can't pull it in as revenue again and saying we're going to take $100,000 out of our checking account, pull it in as revenue, and then use it to offset that expense for whatever that item was. So there is some capital infusion in there that they are using out of their savings to pay some of those things, which throws that budget off a little bit. So that's just overall.
That's why
Susan?
That's a very simplistic way of looking at it, Michael, and thank you for that. But if I have a refrigerator and I know it's 10 years old, I may start to be thinking in my mind, if I'm running my household as a business, that, you know, it's depreciating, it's getting old, and I may want to budget that in a forward-looking current budget, 3-year budget, 5-year budget, what is my wish list kind of thing? Is my equipment getting old? Am I going to need to replace X-ray equipment? You want to try to alleviate the surprises, basically.
Right,
and
but you
plan
also,
for them.
yes, but you
There are
also
surprises. I don't discount that. I'm just saying I would rather at least have some kind of budget rather than no budget at all. And I get that you're working on it, and I appreciate that.
Also, you kind of, you know, it's not always surprises too. We plan on budget expenses for the city where we're going to buy a new plow. It's $100,000. We know we can't pay for it out of the revenue that's going to come in 25. So we know that we're going to use capital that we have in the bank in savings to pay for those things. So I think in their planning, they do anticipate that they're going to be paying for some large items. But, you know, that comes from, you know, we insert a line called beginning fund balance, meaning that we're going to pull cash in there to get our budget balanced. And I don't know if that's what they're looking at because these are new budgets for them, but that may be a suggestion for the council to include that in your budget, that you're actually indicating that you're going to pay that stuff out of reserve funds that you had prior, not the daily operations of the hospital.
And we do, I mean, one thing in all this note I'll say is we do look at, you know, the forecasting of, like, you know, saying what capital investments, what capital improvements are we going to need to make over the next year, 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, we are always forward looking in that. And unfortunately, I mean, I'll go back to our IT infrastructure. I mean, that was something we identified in 23 that we knew we were going to be needing to make serious, I mean, investments into our capital, I mean, or into our IT infrastructure. That part of that was, you know, new equipment along those lines of the PCs and stuff, but we also knew within our servers and all of the, I say the stuff that lives in the basement in the server farm kind of world, But unfortunately, the due diligence of getting our then IT and some of the administration then was not and would not ever get us a quote on what it was going to take to replace. We always anticipated that capital expenditure. Unfortunately, it wasn't until we made the transition and we brought Pinnacle IT on board where we were able to get a solid number and to move forward with that. I mean, and again, it was greater than we anticipated, but we also did not realize the date and how, I mean, you know, some of the stuff and the aging of it. But that is why we have a solid company in place now, and being able to look at this with somebody who's reputable, somebody, I mean, and having the right people in place allows us to more solidly, you know, say, we identified, we know we're going to need to make this investment here, this in the ER, whatever, and we've got the right people to help, you know, bring those quotes, bring that money to the table so we can actually, I mean, record that as capital investment, capital expenditures that we do anticipate going forward. So
I'm reassured to hear that. I think that that's wonderful. And I'm stuck with wondering if you're doing the projections and you're working the budget and you're doing all of the work, what's the resistance to making it public? I really appreciate what Michael is talking about, what he does with the city. Of course, he could internally do all of those things and never present anything, but he presents it because it's the city and it's the people's money, and the people want to know how the money is going to be spent and what the plan is, and they want reassurance. And I would argue that you are in the same position. The hospital is publicly owned. It's a publicly owned asset. It belongs to the city and the community of Eureka Springs. It's not your money. You didn't earn it. You're a steward of...
The hospital earned it.
You did not, though. Each individual commissioner, CEO, staff...
Of course not.
It belongs to the city. The asset belongs to the city. And when you're dealing with other people's money, transparency is really important. They expect that. So I think that's a big difference. You know, if you're doing all the work, why not just share that work with the community, and then everybody feels better, and you don't undergo all the scrutiny that you have on you because you're just holding things back and not sharing. I think that is kind of the, what do you call it?
That's why we are
moral
here.
To the story here.
Yeah, that's the only reason we're here.
Can I interject a little bit? I've really watched a lot of the council meetings before I came here. I watched a lot of the commission to gather ideas of what the past has been like. And I think we all understand that the past at the hospital was pretty rough going. But I think that in my aspect coming in is we all learn from the past. I hear you. I hear what you're wanting. I think where we need to come in is look at how we present in a manner that fits the needs of the community, right? But being new, I want to go back and look at what are the most common things that are coming up in the past that we can move forward with, that we can bring forth to the community and to this council. I don't live in the past, but I learned from the past, and I've studied a lot of the things that Eureka has gone through. I think moving forward, especially when it's becoming budget season, there's ways that we can improve in our knowledge by what you're sharing, how we construct the budget going into the next year. Most commonly in my past, yes, we project end of life of machines. Okay, so when we budget something, let's just say I think my defibrillator is at end of life at 5 years. Okay, so it is a 2023 defibrillator. So in 2 years, I know that I'm going to need $15,000 for that expense. I think in the past, and I haven't dove into some of that stuff, I have a feeling that there wasn't a lot of that projection. So what happens is then when you have these things that start hitting, like you're seeing these numbers, it doesn't give you understanding of why now? Why all of a sudden did these hit? And I never heard anything about this. So I think we need to work on being more clear in those projections. And then when we work on the budget, we can, I plan to meet with all the teams to say, evaluate your equipment. It's going to be vital. We are in an AI world right now. We've got to have the most updated technology, especially in rural care. Because if you read everything, it is strictly trying to keep our health close to home, our healthcare close to home. So it's vital for us to stay on top of those things. This is moving forward. I can't represent the past, but I have heard a lot of the things and I've taken notes. And when we get together, I think we can present it in a way that's going to be satisfying. And if not, we need to listen and work together to see what we can do to get that projected out. But there's some things, right, that as a business, we try to keep within the realms of the hospital. But as I learn more about city-based owned hospitals, how we deliver the message and what we share in the message is transparency. So I hear you, Rochelle. I hear the whole team, and I really look forward to working with everybody. There's a lot of positives. Right now, I think you hear a lot of negatives of the community, and I hear it. But recently this week, I talked to a state surveyor this week, and she mentioned that she has gone on to like Google and stuff like that. And she goes, when I was here last year, it was bad. But when I read the reviews, they're a lot better. That's a good thing. And that's what we need to focus on, is the positive that we need to do for our community. We have a comment was made about the new provider contract that we went with. Vast difference by this surveyor saying you are going in the right direction. You have some top-notch providers here, and I see that. That's great for our community to see that. And then I want the community to come in. One of the things that she also said, vast difference at the look inside the hospital. That was yesterday. She's like, when I came in last fall, I can tell you it was not good. But when I came in this week, it gave me a total impression that the hospital is working hard to move in the right direction. And honestly, it looks great. It's been cleaned up, it's organized, it has the best of the equipment than our next facility that is close to us. We have the same, if not the same equipment. We're working on education of the staff. And we all know this correlates to generation of revenue and bringing in more services. So I appreciate the questions. I do. I really appreciate the questions, because if we didn't have the questions, then we just always go around assuming, and we shouldn't have that. So I just wanted to give that little tidbit of sharing.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I love to hear your vision and your optimism for what's going to happen. That's also very reassuring. And it actually brings me to one last question, if you all are not going to run me out of here in a mutiny. I'm curious what, and maybe you don't have that now, but I'm curious what your plan is to try to re-engage with the community, because I do think, I don't live in the past either, but I know that the past can give us some really important information. I constantly hear from people who still have a really negative opinion of the hospital, and I think I'll be interested and excited to hear what the plan is to re-engage the community in the hospital, because I think that's a big piece. Now that you kind of have your facilities back in order and things like that, how do you re-engage people? How do you reassure them that our hospital is top-notch, is going to provide good care, is on top of the billing correctly, is all those things, so that they're not driving, inconveniently for them and maybe at risk of their own health to another place because they don't trust what's here. So I really look forward to hearing more about that. And I personally would be interested in a tour of the hospital so that I can see it for myself. Perhaps
Good idea.
we could do that as a group. I think that would be
That's very
really
positive. Thank you for making that suggestion.
There are a lot of plans. We need to vet those out. I can share with you, my background has been here in Northwest Arkansas healthcare. I've had a lot of connections with a lot of providers over in the Bentonville, Fayetteville area. I've had numerous specialties reach out to me to see what they can do. Numerous. Like they want to meet with us and come over and provide a service. I don't want to be out loud about what all of those are, but even before I came in here, they were excited to see progression and positivity of growth and rebuild in this community. I think that one of the things community needs is the trust, but it's about relationship, and we need to work on our relationships. And how we do that is not always you come to me, but I need to come out to you. We need to come out to you. We need to be more transparent, visible, but we also need to invite you into our house and let you feel comfortable to see. I'm excited about the future, and it's just not a selling point. It's a vital point to this community. Driving over here, I know there's a lot of population that would like to have their healthcare services performed here instead of driving a curvy road all the way over to Bentonville if they can do it here. And you know, it's just like my mother, she's 85, she lives in a smaller community, and I ask her questions like, what would services would you like to have so you don't have to drive? So you ask those questions. My background is in geriatric specialty. I helped lead the team to be geriatric accredited, the first in the state of Arkansas, even before Washington Regional got it. So we got that. And that's something to say because you learn a lot about your community when you learn more about specific populations as well. So working with our medical provider, we meet every week. Our leadership team is working on professional growth and development within ourselves. I've done a lot of one-ups, and then my first 30 days is to connect and then move out into the community and start connecting there. So I think a lot of this is as we work through our budget as well. It's really difficult, right? When we're in this world of a lot of fluid movement of not knowing where we're going to get reimbursed and how we're going to get reimbursed. But I think our role is let's bring back life to the hospital and bring back the services and trust to the community, generate that revenue based off of those services, and serve our community in the way that it deserves. And I think they truly deserve that, and I fully believe that, and I will live that every workday. So it's just not a selling point, that's just who I am. And the more you know me, that's WAOB.
One of the strong suits, one of the first things during interviews that Tiffany brought up was community and the connection. And she's been the recipient of several community leadership awards, including Marshallese community in Los Angeles. And the strength that she brings, the experience that she brings, the enthusiasm she brings, and the connections are great. And she's dying to get over this hump of assessing and researching and figuring out. She's hungry to get out in the community, and that's what we need. She identified that immediately, and that's the only way we can correct some of the perception that's out there. And we fully invite people, and I'm thrilled that the council will come and take a tour and meet some of the people, because we've got a dynamic staff that's there. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your questions, and thanks for grilling.
I do have an additional question, and that is, and this is really for my own knowledge and as a reference, I read in a news feed that a emergency care clinic in Pea Ridge is getting foreclosed on.
Right.
And is that anything similar to what we have in?
None.
It's not.
No, that was a private company that.
I know it's a private company.
Yeah.
I understand that, but are they not providing the same kind of services that we do?
No,
not?
urgent care is slightly different than emergency with all the services.
I mean, I don't know that they get any funding, probably not, but.
Mercy's urgent care, that closed. That was in the quarter.
Yes.
They closed that. They were the urgent care that was in Eureka. So you want to explain further?
I would just say that most urgent cares, again, it's a lot of times within the shift and change of, the population and the health care they're seeking. I mean, urgent cares became a huge thing and kind of popped up everywhere. And then it's kind of that when something explodes somewhere, and then it's kind of funneled down to which ones are more sustainable. And I mean, seen it across, whether it be private ones, Mercy. I mean, different, entities have actually closed a lot of their urgent cares and kind of consolidating and looking at that of where. So I mean, that's a different type of entity and stuff in a whole, but it's kind of more of that.
I think that helps the general public as well to see that we're not the same as that, because I mean that was the first thing that jumped out at me, is that
No.
How does that compare to us?
Well,
so
Jerry,
I'm glad you explained that.
Very good point. That if you look at that pie chart we gave you that had the revenue by cost center, you can clearly see the differences with the CT scans, radiology. I just had my bone density test done there. Those services are not available at urgent care.
Okay.
So you're like there. You get an assessment usually from a.
You walk in. You're not ambulatory. You walk into an urgent care facility.
Correct, yes. So, I mean, it's more of like your cough, cold, sniffle, sneeze. I mean, they don't usually, some of them can even do, I would say, procedures, lacerations, and some of them cannot be. I mean, just depending on the provider and the services they can provide. So, I mean, much less the life-threatening, heart attack, stroke, things like that. So.
And I think telemed has really caused that urgent care not to be as viable as it used to be. So
I would
a lot of hospitals have gone to that.
Yeah.
And one of the things like Sandy had mentioned about contracts, throughout the country, I've worked with a lot of nurses and a lot of contracts. They really suck the system with not only they're not engaged into the hospital and community. They're great nurses. They come in, but they're here for a reason, right? They're here to make as much money as they can because that's what a traveler does. What we're working on is more our coworkers develop more staff, become more of us, and decrease that labor costs. That is something that right now is creating a negative with some of the contractors that have been here a while. But we also are offering these contractors, if we offer them a full-time position, that you can stay and be one of us, and we would like for you to be a part of us. But a lot of times they don't want to stay. So it's like right now we are getting a lot of applicants for core staffing right now. There's a lot of word of mouth going around about the transition and the positive that is moving forward. The best thing that I can share is we're creating a culture right now that's welcoming and forgiving. So we want to welcome you. We're going to treat you individual every single time, and every coworker is being treated the same as well. So you create a culture that is positive. People will want to work. People will want to come in here and go, I love to work here. And that's what our leadership team is now working on and focusing on, is the culture that is like that.
I'm so very excited to hear you say that, and I actually have seen on your website postings for permanent positions. I think that's really smart too, from a community outreach perspective, right? Because if you have members of the community working in the hospital and they're loving what they're doing, they're going to go tell their family. Those people are going to tell their friends, and it's a real organic, authentic way to show that you've turned a page. Right, and you're also putting, your money where your mouth is, so to speak. We care about you enough that we want you here long term, and that's a commitment to the community. So I absolutely love to hear that. That is very reassuring to me. I love your optimism, and I'm happy to finally get a chance to interact with you. And I do believe that positive, strong leadership can do amazing things. So I wish you all the best, and I look forward to going through the hospital.
Yeah, we'll set up a time and we'll have breakfast and we'll have a great engagement. So we'll set that date, and anytime anybody wants to come and visit, I'm going to hand my card. You call me. I will be happy to meet with anybody.
I think it would be great if we could do a group tour thing. I really do. I think that would be
I like
good community-wise.
We'll get it set up.
You guys determine your date, setting a meeting.
Get it set up.
Always definitely
Happy,
set it up,
excited.
give it to me or to Tip.
We can put that in the agenda at the next meeting and actually do that. Sure. Yeah, I think that'd be swell.
Can we
I'd
just
love
do
it.
a lunch, though, instead of breakfast?
We could do lunch.
Catered by who?
Can I get my phone?
I get it. Some people are not morning people.
Anytime, we'd love to have you do that. And we might
Of course,
be
I
able
just
to actually
reminded,
get Chris up here at the same time and talk about the telehealth.
Sandy, just reminded, if we all get together, it's a public meeting, we have to give notice on
Up
it.
the press, sure. That's absolutely.
Sure.
That's fine. We'll have to audio record it if we're taking the tour, but we can handle that at the hospital. That's no issue.
Thank
That might be that'd be a great virtual community tour
Avery.
through the council.
Susan?
You do it live on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point, Steve, that if it has to be publicly posted, that our city sees us trying to work together to improve for the betterment of the community.
But we'll have to post it as a public meeting and invite the press and the public as well, and we encourage that.
Yeah. Great.
We'll set a tent up, do some barbecue, whatever.
You might consider, and I don't know how you can do that, but maybe an open house kind of thing.
We have talked about an open house many times.
We have some, we just haven't vetted through some of the stuff, but I just have all these vast ideas. I just need to get it organized a little bit and coordinated.
We don't have to do it right away. We'd like to do it in the nearer than far in the future. But, for you guys to work some angles like that, I mean, that'd be fine. I mean,
There's a couple of things that we'll announce probably at our next commission meeting about October. There's a couple of things that we'd like to do for the community.
So would it be better, Terry, if we gave you, the council, a couple of dates in like September, October, and
probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
that would be a good start. And then if we, decide we want to do something different and throw you a curveball, we're capable.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I love this meeting, and I love the way we have gone from perhaps a little contention, a little unease, and we have gone to booking a lunch together. I think that is huge progress, and I think that's going forward. And I hope you see what we saw in Tiffany and our leadership team. We're real excited and we're real proud and completely accessible. So I appreciate this, and I thank you all for your participation.
That's great. All right. Nobody has anything else? I think we'll adjourn our workshop. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Steve.